sure you could do something I got into within the last 5 years that I love was I ran my first 5K maybe 5 years ago. And then ever since then, I fell in love with 5K. And then I started joining some of these running groups. And you wouldn't believe, like, when you search to see, okay, is there any running groups around me? And then to the point where I even brought back like an event to our chapter. So we ended up doing a 5K with our fraternity chapter because I had liked it so much, and I created a program where we can raise money to for different scholarships using what I like, which is or my new thing that I like, which is started jogging and stuff like that. So it's just a matter of getting yourself out of that cycle, joining, just think about some of the stuff that you like to do and then try to see what's near you in the community and do the opposite of what you're doing.
All right, we got another question here. So, for the married or the dating guys, what do you share with your partner versus your boys versus your therapist? How do you split it all up? I've heard mixed results and I want to learn. So, it sounds like it's a question of compartmentalizing, which I think men are yeah, I think men have to deal with a lot, and probably because of this whole concept of like, wearing different masks and, the vulnerability that you choose to take on, and under in different circles. So, how does one navigate that a little bit as far as like what they say to who, or should that even be a thing? That's kind of the question.
Well, I think first, just those three parties, your therapist, everything. You
Yeah.
can't you can't expect your therapist to be able to give you good guidance if you tell them part of the story. You have to remember that you should be in your therapeutic relationship with someone who you trust, has your best interest in mind, and is giving you what you need by way of whatever modality they're using and the conversations that you're having. You should be able to go in there and be an open book. Like there should be nothing off the table. When I talk about nothing, I mean sometimes I sit at my laptop. I love when my clients are comfortable to talk to me about everything, because I'm like, okay. I was like, no, 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 I'm not offended. No, please go ahead. Tell me more. I mean, it is what that is why I'm here. So, good, bad, in between. So you want to tell your therapist everything. Your partner, though, if you're in a relationship, you're married, you're in some type of, romantic relationship, you should trust that partner to tell them, a lot of things. You have to also know your partner, right? So you know what you can and can't say, or maybe how you can and can't say it. And if you don't know what you can and can't say or how to say, run it past your therapist. And so then let your therapist help you decide what you share and how to share it if it's a touchy issue. If it's something with your boys, just like your family, you don't have to tell your boys every single thing. You should have some friends around you that you feel comfortable with and being 100% vulnerable with without, fear of, jokes or just making you feel less than. So, yeah, I always, I say if you don't have one person who you can tell everything to, then, you got to find you at least somebody, because what we like to see when you come to therapy is that you have what we call protective factors. And protective factors are generally things you do, whether it's being engaged in. Even coming to therapy is a protective factor, but it could be your being engaged in work, being dedicated to your family and your kids, having good friends. Depend on if I'm not available. If you need to talk to somebody really quick, if you don't have, your copay, who can you talk to? Because I do some things for free, not a lot though. So, you need to have people around you that you trust. So we talk about how to build communities that are in our best interests. But absolutely, I think there has to be a very clear line and that you respect boundaries, because I don't believe that everyone should know everything, because everyone doesn't have your best interest in mind. But that's up to you to kind of discern that, and that, knowing who your friends are and who your partner is. Because if anyone is weaponizing something against you, then there's some work that needs to be done in that relationship.
So here's one. Could you describe any access to care, barriers, or disruptions you foresee to mental health care resource services due to disinvestment in this particular area? And I would like to engage Brother Spence maybe in this question too, because is it my imagination or does it seem as though there are less psychiatric hospitals? Are they closing? And so, like in talking about these resources and allocation of resources, obviously, everyone, but just again, given the perspective that you have, I'm curious what your take is on that too.
So anecdotally, I'll answer it like this. Since I see a lot of veterans, the let's talk about the VA system. What the reason why we have the unit that system doesn't have the hospital beds to see their veterans. So there's a spillover. There is there is a high demand for inpatient hospital beds. When I speak about demand, you gotta approach it from two things. One, the physical structure, to the actual labor force that is going to watch and is going to monitor. You also have to address the ability of the labor force, meaning also psychiatrists, nurse practitioners who are actually going to take care of our patients. I can speak to the fact that I happen to be in North Carolina right now, and one of our county hospital is building a 200 bed psychiatric only hospital in the area, and that is to address the growth of the area. So so the long and short of it is, in areas where across the country where there's population growth, yeah, you see building of new psychiatric facilities. There's a big industry behind psychiatric healthcare. There are a lot of investment funds and private equity groups that own these hospital organizations that are building. Some areas are losing, in areas that are losing population, you'll see decline in beds, but in general, there's a high demand across the board.
Saw something pop up on the chat. Let me see. Speaking of what Black people are going through, have you seen an uptick in mental health challenges in the past year based on how our people have been directly, either employment loss or insecurity, or indirectly the general socio-political climate affected? So, with everything that's going on in our country right now, have you been seeing a lot more people dealing with mental health issues, seeking guidance and help? Particularly those who have been affected by employment. We hear about this all the time, a startling number of Black women, especially, who have lost their jobs, these kinds of things.
I can
Right.
answer it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say one of the things is that I'm a Generation X. The generations before us, they're doing a better job in seeking care and seeking and going to therapy. So from that standpoint, increasing seeking services, and therefore you're having more practitioners being built through the pipeline. So short.
I was just going to answer it from because I've been doing mental health and crisis management in the prison system in the Florida Department of Corrections, and I can tell that there's a higher uptick now with young Black men seeking mental health services within the prison environment. Because I've been working on and off for about 19 years, and I can tell you in the very beginning, when I first started working in mental health inside of the Florida Department of Corrections, there wasn't a lot of Black men within the prison that sought treatment. And I could say nowadays, there's a lot more that their parents, their mother, sister has been encouraging them to say, hey, write an inmate request, write a sick call request to mental health. I think you need to talk to somebody because I guess some of the times they'll have problems with other inmates or have problems with the officers or just the system in general could be real frustrating. I can say just from inside of a prison environment, Black men has been seeking a lot more services that I can tell as of late.
Yep, I agree. I've seen lots of Black people come to therapy with issues, especially at work. If they work in largely white spaces with a lot more complaints of microaggressions, just people being a lot more openly biased and, you know, just the systemic issues that we knew that already existed, that they seem to be exacerbated by everything that's happening out in a lot of spaces. And I have clients who are federal government employees,